Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's edition of Talk of the Town here at mycountylink.com. Glad you could join us today. I'm Alex Warner, along with videographer Nick Schmidt. Today we're going to welcome in two well-known figures around town here. We have the new mayor of Greenville, Jeff Whittaker, on my left, and on the right is the safety director for the city of Greenville, Ryan Delk. And we're just looking forward to interviewing these guys, getting a little bit of their background, finding out what all is going on around town, and hopefully ask some questions that some of you've had concerns about, and we'll see what kind of answers these guys can come up with. So anyhow, first of all, guys, welcome. We know you've had busy days, and it's nice that you're able to take some time to be with us. And so, Mayor, let's talk a little bit about your background. You just started in office here just, 7-8 weeks ago?
January the 1st, and it started out with a bang with the unfortunate incident of the train derailment. But that turned out to be a blessing that no one was hurt. The train was moving slowly, nothing was spilled, and that got resolved rather quickly. And so that was an event that took place in the third week or something like that.
Yeah.
But again, we had city council meetings. I can't believe the number of meetings that we have. But I'm enjoying being mayor, and I'm privileged to be doing so.
Yeah.
I truly am.
Tell us a little bit about your background and so forth, because you're not a native Darke County, and you got to be here another 40 or 50 years before you consider that, right?
And I'll put that
let's talk a little bit about your background there.
Well, I'm originally from St. Louis. I was born in St. Louis and raised in the St. Louis area, and I majored in political science at McKendree University in Lebanon, Illinois. And right after that, having participated in local campaigns, I was offered a job in the St. Clair County Treasurer's Office, and I handled all the investments for the county, starting out with a portfolio of $68 million and going all the way up to $120 million by the time I left.
Wow.
And I was 23 years old when I got that job.
Well,
so I was working with all the banks and earning as much interest as we could back in those days when the interest rates were in the teens, as high as 19%. Right. Fortunately, back then we got to abate some real estate taxes because we earned so much money in the general fund. We actually made almost $2 million in interest for the general fund. So we got to abate some real estate taxes, which was very well received. Yeah. But it was a gift,
You got to be able to pull that off here in the county seat of Darke County?
Well, we don't want to see interest rates go up that high.
We don't have the $120-some million on hand, do we?
Yeah, St. Clair County is about 5 times the size of Darke County, actually.
Right. So how did you end up back here then, and how long have you been here?
Well, I moved to Florida, and I lived in Florida 15 years, where I met my wife, Robin. And Robin is from this area. She graduated from Northmont.
Oh, okay.
And we met in Florida, happenstance. And long story short, her mom and dad would come down and visit with us, and they were getting up there in age, and her dad had a couple of strokes. And I offered her if she wanted to move back up here to Ohio so she can spend time with her folks before. As it turns out, she got to spend 8 more years with her parents.
Okay.
And as luck would have it, here I am as mayor of the city of Greenville.
Mayor of the city of Greenville. Yeah, I like this guy a lot because I was born in St. Louis, and so we have a little bit in common, including a love of St. Louis Cardinal baseball, correct?
That's right.
Yeah. So anyhow, I guess we have to have people show us things, right? Because Missouri, of course, show me state and everything. What were you doing before you then became mayor here, after you moved back to Ohio?
I worked at Whirlpool, actually. I got on at KitchenAid, and I had a job in doing inventory in the materials department.
Okay.
And that was a position that I held until I retired.
Okay.
At my full retirement age in end of June of 22.
Okay.
Which
and then you've gotten involved in politics around here over that period of time.
And that's a story too. Right before the Annie Oakley parade started in 2016, Mayor Willman and Roxanne Willman, our city auditor, we were talking about a bunch of things. He goes, you ought to run for city council. And I thought, we're pretty much determined we're going to stay here now. And so I did that. And I spent 6 years on city council. And then the conversation turned around with Steve because he was talking about maybe not running again. And I said, well, if you don't run, I'm going to run because I'll be retired from Whirlpool.
Yeah,
and I can give my full energy and attention to being mayor of Greenville, and that's how it's worked out.
Yeah, great. Well, let's move over to this side of the table for just a second. Now, this is a Greenville native here. This is Ryan Delk, and Ryan's well known around town. And Ron, just a little bit of your background here.
So my background, born and raised in city of Greenville, attended Greenville High School, graduated in 1997, married a local Greenville girl, have 3 children who are now starting to grow, 19, 16, and 12.
Wow.
If I have it right.
Yeah.
Good. It's going quick. Career started, went to Sinclair, and majored in auto mechanics. I was originally a mechanic for Chrysler, and I had worked summer seasonal employment down at the Greenville Street Department when I was in high school and college, just as a general laborer. And a position came open, and George Luce, who was actually the superintendent at the time, called me and was like, "Hey, I think you'd be a good fit for this job. Are you interested?" I was like, not really my career path, but I'll come and talk to you. So took that job, was a laborer there for a little over a year. Then I became the mechanic at the street department, so I went through that. And then Tim Harless retired, who was the superintendent,
Right.
so then I became the superintendent. And then thought that was probably my career path, and that's where I would retire from. And then this position came open, and I felt like I had some good knowledge to offer because I've been around for a while. And so Mayor Wilman approached me, and
Here you are.
That was 2020. So
Yeah, and I said that
3
right,
years.
the city safety director. Did I say that correct?
Safety service director.
Safety service
Yes.
director,
It's-
okay.
It's a
Yeah.
lot. People are like, what exactly is that? So that means I'm over all safety forces and all of the service industry, water, wastewater, street, parks, and then utilities,
Yeah.
planning and zoning, and then obviously police and fire as well.
Yeah, yeah. We were talking a little bit earlier, it had to have been like 10 or 12 years ago. We had done a show when you were just a puppy down there at the street department, and it was really a good show. We talked
Yeah, it
about
turned
all
out
the
well.
all the things that that went into how many miles that you had to clear every year, snow-wise, lane miles, and just everything about the street department. It was really, really good. So we're glad to have you here
Yeah,
now. So,
glad to be back.
So let's talk. You just take over office here after first of the year, shortly before, correct?
January 1st.
January 1st. You're coming in off city council. What are the first 3 things that you prioritized? What things did you want to see done, or what was at the top of your list?
Well, one of them is code enforcement, as
Okay.
Ryan well knows.
Okay, you're
And,
talking zoning codes and things of that nature?
Yeah, and cleaning up properties and
Okay.
so forth. I mean, for the most part, Greenville is a very nice city to live in. It's clean, safe. It's a wonderful city, and Robin and I chose to live here. But there's some areas that, and some situations that exist, in my estimation, that need attention. Quite frankly, everyone needs to be treated equally and fairly, when dealing with this, and not allow certain properties to go run rampant, if
Right.
you will. I don't know how else to explain it, but it doesn't matter to me who owns the property. And, if you're gonna own property in Greenville, keep it up.
Mm-hmm.
It's not fair to the neighbors, and I'm just asking people to be good neighbors and clean up your property, be a good neighbor, and be considerate.
Do we have a lot of abandoned properties in town right now, or not?
What would you say, abandoned?
I mean, I guess I wouldn't say a lot when you look at the grand scheme of there's around 6,000 residential properties in the city of Greenville.
Okay.
Abandoned, people still own them. They just don't take care of them very well,
Right.
and they're not very responsive. I would say you're probably in the 10 to 15 range.
Okay, so not a lot.
Of
Yeah.
that. When you look at 6,000, 10 to 15.
Yeah,
it's a very
okay,
low
that's not too bad. But your concern was people that just aren't maintaining their property, which decreases the value of the neighbors' properties and kind of a nuisance type of situation.
Exactly, it's more of a nuisance, and it's not very considerate at all. When you see cars that are dilapidated, parked up on the grass, expired plates, there's no attempt to move them, there's grass growing around them. Those are the types of things that just, quite frankly, lead to blight, to use a strong word, but, we're both from St. Louis, so we know that type of thing.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see that happen in Greenville. I mean, Greenville is a very nice, peaceable town in which to live for the most part. There are some areas and some neighborhoods that we're experiencing some complaints.
Okay.
But for the most part, I want all of Greenville to be that way.
Okay. So that was one of your chief priorities as you come into office.
Yeah.
Give me another one or two there off the top of your head if you have them.
Well, we had started on city council when I was on council with the replacement and repair of sidewalks. And that's existing sidewalks. We're not asking people to put in new sidewalks,
Okay.
just to be clear. But
That seems like that's been going on for what, 4 or 5 years?
yeah, and then we kind
Bits
of dropped
and
it
pieces
when
and-
COVID came up. We kind of dropped that, and then we had to raise the water rates. That was another
Yeah.
thing, and that was the result. And I'm just going to say this from my perspective. That was a can that was kicked down the road a long time, and as a result, we had our main line, which was just about to be finished with all the hookups and all that. But that line was in the ground for 130 years,
Wow.
from
Now, is
1893 to 2023.
is that the one that came in from out west of town on 502 from the water treatment
Yes.
plant?
Yeah,
That was the original line from 100 and some years ago?
130 years ago.
Boy, a lot of lead there, I assume, right?
Now, what was interesting about that, the numbers of that is, when Lieutenant Governor Husted came and visited us and presented us with a check for, what was it, a couple $1 million?
1.4 million.
1.4 million. I wish it was.
1.44.
We could have used.
Gee, the other
We
600
could have used it,
grand.
go to 600. Maybe he'll bring it to us.
I hope so.
But Lieutenant Governor Husted made a point. He said, the Treaty of Greenville was signed in 1795. And it was 98 years from then when you put in your main water line. It's been in the ground for 130 years.
Wow.
So that puts that into perspective, just as a point of interest.
Okay, and
Was
so you replaced that whole main line all the way from out on 502 coming into town, under the railroad track, across Greenville Creek, or, yeah, it would
Mud
be.
Creek.
Mud Creek.
Yep.
And then on in, and that's part of the construction that has been going on right there as Chestnut blends into West Main then, I assume,
Correct,
right?
yep. That's connecting it all to the existing lines that
Yeah.
feed the rest of the
Yeah.
city.
When's that supposed to be done? Because, to be honest, I live out in that neighborhood, out where your, in-laws used to live there on Chestnut. It's kind of nice. There's no traffic on Chestnut Street at all. Can we just kind of block that? No, don't take. When's that supposed to be finished?
So, actually here, probably within the next week or so, they will have all the water line tie-ins done. They were working on one at Third today.
Right.
And that one, actually, as we were walking in here, I got a text that one was fixed. And now they have to go up to Oakwood and replace a valve. And then after they replace that valve, the water portion will be complete. And then they have to go through and do all the soft surface and hard surface repair,
Right.
which is like the sidewalks and the grass and
Okay.
the road.
So that won't extend on down Chestnut Street past the old tile factory to the railroads?
No.
Nothing that way, okay.
Yep.
Some people wanted to clarify that, and I said, well, I will ask. So that clarifies that.
It's all part of the tying it back into the system. That's why the water has to be shut off to do that tie-in, and that's the all the boil advisories that we've had recently.
Okay.
They're on, most of them have been somewhere between 20 and 30 properties. So when they shut something completely off, they have to issue a boil advisory, and then we send water samples to a lab. We actually drive them to the lab, and then it takes 2 days to get them back and make sure the bacterial samples.
Well, I know when you talk about shutting off a main valve on Oakwood Street, I know they were tearing up some pipes out there beside that little pond they put in the addition of the Brethren Retirement Community.
Yeah.
Was that a main?
So that was a water break, but it was a private BRC water
Okay.
break.
Okay, because I know there were gushers going through there
Yeah.
when I drove by there the
Yeah.
other day. So infrastructure was one of your main
Yes,
priorities.
infrastructure is very important. I mean, that's probably our greatest asset, physical asset that we have, is our infrastructure, the streets, which we've been doing a good job of every year doing some repaving. We wish we could always do more, but, there's only limited funds to do that. And I think, what are we spending this year? 1 point,
It's looking about 1.4 million
yeah.
paving.
So how many streets does that entail? I forgot. We had a little bit of a
About
list.
12.
Yeah.
And that leads to a question that people have asked me to bring forth today. how do you prioritize which streets get repaved?
So a lot,
How's that work?
a lot
That's
goes
a
into
good
it.
question.
It's a very good
That's
question.
why I ask it.
So we use something called a PCR rating. So we go out and it's an ODOT process, and we rate the streets based on like the amount of cracks and how it's breaking down and the potholes and the existing base. And then we put all those numbers into a spreadsheet, and then each year you automatically take 2 points off of it just from freezing and thawing and normal wear.
Okay.
And then once that gets below, so you want to see your streets at like a 70% PCR rating, and we're not at a 70% PCR rating across the board. So then we take those numbers and we put the math to them, like, every street's a different size, or maybe it's going to take more base to repair it back to the way it should be, or we have a water line or a sewer line or some kind of infrastructure underneath it that we have to address. So then we take those numbers, and we have a running list that goes for the next 20 years of streets we need to do.
And streets can move up and down.
And streets move, like, depending on, okay, like, this street's PCR rating is, most of them that we're repaving are somewhere in the 50, 60 PCR, maybe even a little lower.
And you'd like to be at 70 at least, you said?
If we
Or
could
higher?
get the entire city at 70 or higher, I mean, you have really good streets at that
Okay.
number. We do not, unfortunately.
Well, it comes down to financing,
Yeah,
too.
I mean, back
Yeah,
during
right.
our,
It's all about
probably around the time of our initial, when we put the
Right.
street department, like 2010 timeframe, we went for 3 years that we did next to nothing as far as paving because of budget crunches. And so then you lose those 3 years, well, then you're playing catch up the whole time.
Right.
And obviously, like everything else, asphalt and pavement is based on petroleum.
And you
numbers.
said traffic flow too, right?
Yep.
So the heavily traveled streets are more likely to move up the list as opposed to a side street through a subdivision,
Right.
for example.
Yep, traffic counts are figured into that PCR rating.
Okay.
There's a lot that goes
Yeah.
into it. So then we put that, we figure out the number that we have to spend, and then you have to put all the numbers of what it'll cost you to do and what you can afford. And like, this street might need it worse than this other street, but we have a water line we have to replace on that one.
Yeah.
So we might have to.
So a
push it
lot of
back.
factors, not only what you can see, but what you can't see.
And then items that aren't even in our control, your internets and your phone and your natural gas and your electric, like natural gas company, they send us a list and they say, hey, this is the area we're gonna focus on.
Okay.
And so we share information of, okay, we wanna try to pave this one by then, can you have your project completed? Because the last thing you want is to
Pave a street and tear it
waited
back up.
30 years to get paved, and then
Well, and that's a frustrating thing when
Oh, yeah.
people see that. You just paved that street last year, now you're digging it up. Well, we want to avoid that
Yeah.
whenever possible.
Yeah, I know, was it when there was some repaving done out by the two hotels there on Russ Road? Seemed like it just gotten paved and then there was something was torn
Yeah.
up right away in there. And I know a lot of people were scratching their heads over that.
Yeah, and we want to have that be a minimum.
And those kind of things are always gonna happen because you pave it and then a water break shows up
Yeah.
or a gas leak shows up
Yeah.
and you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
But you try to get ahead of all those things and at least do what you know.
Yeah. Well, I've got a question, because I drive this quite a bit. The one block beside the courthouse, West 4th Street from Broadway to Sycamore, I'm cruising all the time, all of a sudden, bang, 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 there's like 3 or 4 potholes there. What are we doing about that?
So that whole area is on the
Losing
list.
some fillings.
That whole area is on the list to be paved this year.
Okay, God love you then,
yes,
man.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So again, those projects got pushed back because of the sidewalk project. So
Okay.
we want to get the sidewalks complete. And then there's some, you also, like, you run into a lot of those areas up in like the north end of town where it starts to heave up.
Yeah.
Well, it's all on the construction at the time. When those houses were built, concrete was a big thing, so they put in concrete streets, and then they came in and they paved over that concrete.
Yeah, now
And then
concrete.
freezing and thawing, and the
Yeah.
concrete moves and
Yeah.
creates a speed bump.
Yeah. So when we talk the infrastructure and so forth, then that is something that was one of your main priorities, of course. What kind of you said 1.4 million, is that?
This year, that's what
For
we're going to
this
spend
year?
on repaving.
Okay.
and about 500,000. The reason, usually we're somewhere in that $800,000 range is
Okay.
what we can put towards paving. And, $800,000 10 years ago
Yeah.
could get you 25 streets, and
Yeah.
now it'll get you 12 streets.
Now, 10 years ago, I asked you, how many mile lanes are there that you guys are responsible for within the city limits?
Right. Oh, man, see,
That's a loaded
I
Good
wanted to say it
question.
was like 87
It's
to
like-
90,
it's around
something
90
like that.
miles, 90 lane miles.
Yeah, so if you go down the street, you got down and then you got
Back.
back. So 2 lanes there, and
Or-
out on Wagner.
If you have a 4 lane or a
have a
3
4
lane.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, so infrastructure, what's another priority that you need to take a look at here?
Not take a look at it, I just want to do all we can for our safety people, our fire department, our street department. Those are, all the things that people expect out of their city government is fire and safety, fire and police protection. Water, sewer, clean drinking water.
Right.
And that's why we put all of our priorities on the water rates when we needed to do this stuff, because we didn't want to be like Flint, Michigan.
No, we didn't want to go there.
And I can tell you that the exponential effect on that in Flint, Michigan, their property values are so low.
Yes.
It is ridiculously low. Somebody told me that a $180,000 house in Flint, Michigan is if you're lucky, you get 40,000 for it.
Yeah,
And because you gotta have water.
just because of the water
And that was the
situation.
point we were trying to make when we were explaining to the people about having to increase our water rates. It wasn't a popular thing to get to do, and in fact, at city council meeting, I said, look, I don't want to be the guy up here raising water rates, but I certainly don't want to be the guy up here if our main water lane breaks, our 130-year-old main water line
Right.
breaks, and we don't have any water.
Exactly,
So we're going to avoid that conversation. We're going to take care of this now.
yeah.
And I think we're getting close to working on a new water tower, and
Now,
that's,
where's that gonna go?
So out behind Spartek, out on Lansdowne.
Okay. Try to supply that area out there. Does the Continental Grain, or the Andersons and Continental Carbonics, do they draw water from the city then?
They do.
And so we need that out there because they use a great deal of water,
They
correct?
do. About half of what the entire city uses in
Yeah.
a day.
I'm trying to remember, we did a show Nick and I did on the water department, and if I remember, and it's a great trivia question, which present water tower has a greater storage capacity? And people miss it all the
I know,
time,
I'm
because
sure
they
they do.
see the south side water tower, oh, that's huge, I go, if I remember, that's like 500,000 gallons, and the one up on Russ Road that just goes straight up in the air, that's 1 million, if I'm not mistaken,
Spot
correct?
on. I
Yeah.
think 750.
750, yeah.
But
So that
500,
stores more
750.
water, and then there's what, 1 million gallons, I think the water department has it looks like the spaceship that landed on, the underground storage. Yeah, so now you oversee that too, correct?
Yes. Yep.
What's new with the water department, other than we're putting all that infrastructure in?
So infrastructure is a big part of water.
Yeah.
This main water line was one of our big focuses. The water tower east is what we're calling it, is another big focus. You want to have at least 24 hours of overhead storage.
Okay.
It's recommended to have at least 24 hours of overhead storage and no more than 36 hours. So right now, we use about 2 million gallons a day.
Right.
And like Northtown Water standpipe, it's not really a tower, is capable of holding 750,000 gallons, but because of the level, it can really only hold about a half of
Got it,
about
got it.
500,000. So we have 12 hours of overhead storage, so we're trying to get
that extra
to where
storage.
we're at. We want to be around.
When's that
around the
projected to
36.
be started or completed?
So we're in the design phase right now, so we're going to be designing through 2024.
Okay.
And then construction, we're hoping to bid the end of 2024 and construction start beginning of 2025.
Okay.
And then that's about an 18-month.
Yeah, I figure that doesn't happen overnight, does it?
and
Yeah.
that tank's gonna hold how much again?
That'll be a 2 million gallon.
2 million.
That's gonna be a
Yeah.
big project. Now, you talked about, you were worried about, fire and police and so forth. How are we staffing wise right now?
Fire department's fully staffed, right?
Okay.
And the police department's a couple little 2, 3 officers down, right?
I think to be at full staff, I think it's at 28.
28.
We're currently at 24. 25,
Yeah.
and I think we're getting ready to go down to 24. We just have
Is it hard right now? I read or hear about, the number of applicants for, especially for police department, it seems like.
Well, I think there's a lot that goes into that. First of all, there's not a whole lot of young people these days, I don't think, that want to be police officers.
That's true.
Because of the inherent dangers out on the streets. Then you got municipalities like our beloved St. Louis, whose mayor declared it defund the police municipality. And that's not doing the city of St.
No.
Louis much good at all.
No.
Become one of the most dangerous cities in the country.
Yeah. Murder capital of the country. if I'm
Yeah,
not mistaken.
and the shame of it is when I was living there, we had a new light rail system,
Mm-hmm.
Metrolink, and I don't want to delve on that too much, but a lot of people don't ride it now because it's too dangerous.
All right.
Now, that's a shame,
Yeah, it
because
is
transportation is another thing that was important to me, and it would be an awesome wonder to have a Metrolink system here in Southwest Ohio, but that's a lot of money, a lot of money.
That's big bucks
But
right
it would,
there.
it would serve a purpose, to get people all around. But, the fact of the matter is, our becoming a police officer is just a lot of consideration, and you're making a lot of sacrifice, in your family.
All right.
And I want people here in Dark County and Greenville in particular to be knowing that we care about our police officers, and we want to do as much as we can for them. And same thing with our fire department. And
Right.
one of the things that I wanted to mention real quick regarding the fire department is our own fire chief, Russ Thompson, has had a big part with the Dark County Association of Fire Chiefs in developing a fire training facility
Right.
that will serve multiple counties, and in fact, even more surrounding counties, as far as maybe allowing them to use that facility as well.
How's that coming along? Because I know we did a show with Russ and, let's see, Scoob Cook from New Madison, and then Brian Troutwine, Kurt Troutwine from Arcanum on
Yeah.
that, probably a year or so ago. Are they getting the funding for that, or how's that coming along?
Yeah, the House has just passed in their capital funds
budget.
budget. There was how much was that? 70
$700 million.
$700 million was left over.
A one-time $700 million
So
carryover.
Russ has been working very hard along with the rest of those guys to raise money for this facility.
Right.
And we thought it was several years down the road yet. Then all of a sudden, this $700 million comes up, and we decided that we're going to work through channels and.
You have to have a grant writer or somebody, or
Yeah,
who handles the correspondence
We had
on
some
that?
help with someone that a lot of people around here know, Katie Deland.
Okay.
And she helped us with the legislature, and the House has pretty much secured the full amount of the $750,000.
Well, that'd be great if we could
Now,
have
that's
that.
going before the Senate in April, I believe, is when they're gonna hear all that stuff, and Katie's pretty positive about it, that we'll
Okay.
get it. But I don't wanna put the cart before the
Right,
horse, but,
yeah.
I'm very optimistic about it, kinda knowing how things work up there, and
Okay.
we've got a pretty good friend in Senate President Matt Huffman.
Okay.
And I think he'll go to bat for us.
Okay.
He likes Greenville, I understand.
Well, moving on with staffing, approximately how many city employees are there? Top of your head. You could throw any number out and I'll believe it, so
120-ish.
120-ish.
Yep, and then during summer months, when you hire all your pool personnel
Right.
and seasonal workers, you teeter around the 140, 150 mark.
Let me ask you that, since you brought that up with the pool workers. One of the gems of the Treaty City, of course, is the Greenville City Park.
Yes.
And you have now taken that over through, is it the park
So-
department still runs it, or
So there's still a park board.
park board?
There's a
Okay.
park board, and then back, I think it was like 2013-ish, is when the street department actually took over all the duties
Yes.
of the park.
Okay.
So they handle all the maintenance out there. Myself and the street superintendent, Matt Myers, we hire like the pool employees and get the pool up and running, and
Okay.
it's umbrella. We can keep the budget down and keep the same
Okay.
by running it through the
Okay.
street department. You know, there was a lot of duplicated equipment, a lot of duplicated personnel. You know, we hire like seasonal part-time employees to do a lot of the mowing and landscaping where before you had full-time employees, so there was a
Okay.
lot of savings there.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you brought up budget, because what kind of budget or revenue stream, what is that approximately?
Our total budget, what is it?
So total budget is, and this is with everything.
Yeah.
Because you have revenue generating departments like water, wastewater. So total budget is right around 30 million.
Wow, okay.
When you,
And the 30 million is derived from property tax, income tax, state, local funding, national funding? We get federal funding, do we, for the city?
I don't know how much federal funding we actually get anymore.
yeah, not a lot, only what we apply for in like a grant form.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is usually federal. Most of our funding is income tax. That's a
Yeah.
major percentage of it. A very small percentage is
I gotta
property
think,
tax.
0.5%, is that what it is right now?
1.5%.
One-
Wishful thinking, folks,
Yeah.
1.5%.
He's trying to cut taxes over here.
Hey, I'm retired now, I don't have to worry about that so much anymore. I remember it was 1.5%, yeah, you're right. But anyhow, so then city council sits down and says, okay, here's what we're bringing in, and then the budget each year then, I assume.
Yeah, the auditor's office actually develops the budget after getting all the submissions from all the different departments. Correct me when I get wrong here.
You're fine.
But the auditor's office, then we meet, you know, as an administration, and goes over all that budget, and then make sure everything's all balanced out, and then we present it to city council. And anything then throughout the year that, you know, involves expenditures has to go through city council.
Right. Speaking of city council, so how many council members are there? I know we have wards and we have at-large. How many council
We've got
people?
4 wards, and so there's 4 ward councilmen, then we got 3 at-large councilmen, and we have our council president, who's John Baumgartner.
Okay, so really 8.
Yeah.
Now, and as mayor, 7 plus the
Yeah,
president.
right.
As mayor, you do not have a vote on that.
I do not
thing.
have a vote, and
You miss that, do you? Got a little veto power or something?
that I do have.
I was gonna say veto is just another way of rearranging the letters for vote, right?
Yeah, but just realize too that I could not approve of something council's passing and veto it, but just like the president, the Congress can override his veto, and so the city council could too. And that's the nice thing about our government. You know, we've got different branches, and that's for a reason, the checks and balances. And if I get mad at something that I don't personally like that the city council does, but they really want it, and they're representatives of the
Yeah,
people, they can just override my veto, and I can just move on with life. And if the project goes good, I can take credit for it and give credit to the council. And if it goes bad, I say that they did it. Just joking.
And council meets how often?
The council meets on the first and third Tuesdays of every month at 7:30 up in the council chambers
Okay.
on the second floor, and we invite anybody to come. And usually at the end of the initial proceedings, approving the agenda and the minutes and all that, we allow for public hearing sessions, and we invite people to come up. They have to state their name and then explain what it is they're wanting to talk about.
Are those still telecasts? They used to be on Greenville Public Access Television, and of course that went by the way. So is there any streaming or anything people can watch that live or not?
Yeah, so we have a
He's a
YouTube
technical
channel.
guy.
A
So
YouTube channel, okay.
So it's on YouTube, on Greenville's YouTube channel, and then it's live
Right.
on YouTube, and then you can go back,
Go back
and
and
rewatch it on
watch the
YouTube
tape
as well.
Okay.
And there's
great.
a zoom, you can zoom in. So we zoom it for the public viewing, and then from Zoom, I can put it on YouTube, and so you can
Watch
Okay.
it and
come.
rewatch it,
Yeah.
rewatch it.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll start winding things down here in a little bit. Projects, what kind of projects are going on? Anything as far as expansion out north, out past Lowe's, or anything going on in the south end of town? Or what projects do we have coming down the road here?
So projects, we're finishing up this water line. We're the design phase of the water tower east. we're currently looking, another water side is lead service lines. So we secured about $1 million about 2 years ago to replace lead service lines, and then we just got word last week that they're coming out with another one. So we're going to keep pursuing. Getting the lead out of the system is a major.
Get the lead out?
Yeah, get the lead
Yeah,
out
yeah.
is a major part of it. We're working on a project that's in the design phase that won't happen until 2027 on Schweitzer Street. So it'll be Schweitzer Street from Burt to the Corp.
Okay.
Adding sidewalks,
Really?
water or stormwater infrastructure, new street lights, some green space, some things to fix up that one. You know,
Yeah.
it's one of our major thoroughfares coming into the city.
I gotta say, the south
Yeah.
end of town, I mean, everything is always pushed out, developed north. The south end's kind of always like the neglected stepchild there, it seems like, and it'd be great if you could get that in out there.
And I think we want to do more things in the south end of town, you know, develop that area a bit. And that's, again, why I want to encourage, it goes full circle here in my conversation, but that's exactly why I want to encourage people to, you know, keep their properties nice, you know. But as people come into town, they want to see nice property. When somebody considers putting a business in, they want to see good infrastructure, they want to see clean properties, and they want to see a nice, homey town instead of, you know, an area of, I'll use that word again, blighted.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, well, some question that you hear around town, and I myself feel it's unjustified, but a lot of people say, boy, Greenville does everything they can to stifle new businesses coming in, or they make it hard for existing businesses. How do you guys respond to that?
I like to think that the planning and zoning department's been trying to streamline things a little bit and make it easier to get whatever permits they need. And I know that Dennis Aislinger's been trying his best to do all that.
Okay.
And to make it easier for people to go about doing their business. And I don't need anything to add there.
I mean, I think streamlining has helped, you know, and I don't want to throw another division under the bus here, but like, it's not always about, a lot of times you get into building codes and different regulations
Right.
that people have to follow. It's just like, you know, for an example, the fire department, like a new business comes to town, and if the code says that the building needs to be sprinkled, which is a large amount of money,
Right.
they can't just say, no, it's okay, you can't. Like, they have a guideline they have to follow, and that's some of the times I think when people think we get
Yeah.
that persona of we're hard to work with.
Yeah.
And that's a
it's-
matter of opinion and.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why I
Yeah.
say some people I've come across, they say, well, yeah, it's just tough to do anything in Greenville.
When we allow a store to open or anything, you know, any kind of a venue, we got to take the public safety into consideration. We don't want somebody in a store, you know, and they accidentally catches on fire and they don't have a sprinkler system. Or, you know,
Right.
if it was required, and then it comes out that, oh, we waived that. I don't want to be there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's just one example. There's multiple
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
multiple examples.
Yeah.
examples
Sure.
of that, but.
Well, let's wrap things up. Okay, so Ryan, a genie shows up with the magic lamp. What would be your first two wishes for the city of Greenville with that genie?
So my first wish would be, so everybody wants to talk about residential housing. So residential housing is definitely a need. You know, we know this, but then it becomes, can you make it affordable? You know, what residential housing?
Affordable residential housing,
Right.
yes.
That's a word, you know, that people throw around, but right now, if you want to go out and you want to build a new subdivision, you have to sell each one of those houses for somewhere in the neighborhood of $500,000 a pop for the developer to make money on installing all the infrastructure, and the
Right.
build costs are just so high. So I say that, but my first, and this has always been a dream of mine, is to rehab what we have. You have all these properties. You talk about the South End. I used to live down there. Like, we loved our house. It had tons of character. Like, if we could come up with a way to rehabilitate these houses to, you know, like new or remodeled condition, like, I think it would be huge for the city of
You know what my wife's gonna say? We need to get HGTV in here.
Right.
Flip or flop or this old
There you go.
house.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
need to do that,
Yeah,
don't we?
absolutely,
Okay.
same
Exactly.
thing.
2 wishes for the genie.
2 wishes for the genie. First would be about a $1 billion grant from the federal government.
Okay,
redo
that's
all
more
of
of
our
a pipe dream than a wish.
Well,
but-
you asked for a dream, so
Okay.
if you're gonna be a bear, be a grizzly.
Yeah, might as well go big.
Okay. Second of all, being realistic, I just want to create a city where younger people would desire to move into it.
Yes, yeah.
And I think that's very important for the future of this city. Quite frankly, I don't know what average age in our population is, but, I know a lot of people in their 60s,
Yeah.
and, that goes another 20 years, and then you wonder who's going to be running the place.
I know Darke County is one of the oldest counties in the state of Ohio, if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken.
Yeah.
In Greenville, it seems like we've been around 12,500 to 13,000.
It was
Give or
13
take 1,000 forever.
Yeah, it was 13,000 when I moved here, and then now it's what, 12,566 is the
Yeah.
number
Yeah.
that comes up.
Yeah, and it just
But-
seems like we hit a plateau and we just
Yeah.
can't get off of that.
But, we're trying to offer amenities, we built the YOLO, the organization,
Right.
built the splash pad,
Right.
and we put in the south end
Yes.
splash pad.
Sure.
And the north end park is a pretty nice facility, and Whirlpool donated their money from the proceeds of the Annie Oakley days,
Sidewalk
their
sales.
sidewalk sale, their pop-up store. They
Right.
donated that money to the city of Greenville.
great.
We were able to redo those basketball courts and pickleball courts and tennis courts.
Yeah.
And that was a good thing. And, people like to walk. We got the bike trail, we got the beautiful city park, we got the amenity. One of the amenities I enjoy are the concerts in the park.
Yes.
In the summertime, and that's always something.
Well, and then another thing, like Darke County Center for the Arts, a lot of
Yeah.
people don't take advantage of the
Exactly.
programming that goes there. And you stated it right
we got
off the.
Memorial Hall,
Yeah,
too.
right at the start of this program, you said Greenville's a great place to live and raise a family. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times people don't appreciate what's right in front of them.
Exactly.
And they have a tendency to accentuate the negative and they overlook all the positives
Yeah.
that life in Greenville
And Robin and I, we
present.
tell a lot of people, we chose to move here.
Yeah, right.
We chose this, we've been here 10 years now, and we've both been involved and to a degree that I never would have dreamed 10 years ago, but now.
Yeah, here you are.
To be the mayor of the city it's an honor and it's a privilege. And-
Here you are.
and, I got Ryan here, and we've got every one of our department heads, we're all clicking on all cylinders.
Yeah, that's great.
And everybody's willing to work with one another. We got a great team of people, and rather than complain, I wish people would really appreciate all the city people, what they
Right.
do and what they try to do.
Exactly right. I know you've been involved in a million things over the years, right?
Yes.
I don't know how I keep this straight.
I know. Well, with their kids going up, Little League and all this, and
All the
Brian's been
fun
involved in
things.
so much. So anyhow, thanks guys for taking time
Thank
out of
you.
your day. This is Greenville Mayor Jeff Whittaker, Safety Services Director
There you go.
Ryan Delk, and on behalf of Nick Schmidt, our videographer, thanks for tuning in. And phone numbers they can contact you guys at? Is that the easiest way? Is a phone number or a site on a website or what?
937-548-1482 will get you to the mayor's office. Nancy, we have a great assistant that keeps us in line throughout the day, and
Yes.
she gets us all messages. You can also contact us on our website, cityofgreenville.org. There's a contact section that
Okay.
sends an email
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
Direct emails straight
city
to us.
Yeah.
email. Nancy answers those or gets those and then sends them off
Okay, very good.
appropriately. And-
So if you folks out there, if you have questions, concerns, praises, let's hope, make sure you get in touch with these fine gentlemen up
We
there
like
at the
more
city
praises
building.
than-
Yeah, more praises than concerns. Anyhow, thanks to Mayor Jeff Whittaker, Safety Services Director Ryan Delk. I'm Alex Warner. Thanks for watching this episode
Thank you.
of Talk of the Town here at mycountylink.com. So long, everybody.
Bye.